Okay. Codes should be reviewed periodically to adapt to current research, new technologies, and the growth of our city. I appreciate our City Council has given us this protection for decades and continues to safeguard us today. On the court where I live, 5 out of the 7 houses have generators. That's 5 generators in very close proximity with more nearby. This is quite a concentration of generators when operating at the same time. The number of generators is only going to increase throughout the city. Everyone who wants a generator should be able to have one. Generators must be installed, used, and maintained properly. Ownership includes this responsibility, and it includes liability. Your generator should not affect adjacent properties. City codes address decibel levels, toxic fumes, excessive heat, and the location of whole house and standby generators. I'm hopeful we will see council set the minimum setback distance to the property line for these generators at 5 feet. For those of you choosing to temporarily power your house with a portable generator, possibly even using an automatic transfer switch, the CDC says a portable generator should be placed 20 feet away from your house for your safety. And there are placement options for similar lots in our area, such as locating a generator for smaller lots in our area, such as locating a generator on a reinforced garage or house roof, or investigating modular backup battery storage systems. Most of these can be charged using solar panels, and or now you can even charge them with AC power. These modular systems store backed up power until it is needed. They do not exhaust carbon monoxide fumes and can even be hung inside on a wall in your garage. There are backup power options for all homeowners that will meet city code at 5 feet, protecting all of us and our environment, making a difference in how we choose to live our life in Nassau Bay. Thank you.
3 minutes and 15 seconds.
Oh, thank you for that.
Thank you, Becky. Anybody else?
Thank you, everybody. Jim Stoa, 18315 Hereford Lane, Nassau Bay. Just want to remind everybody this weekend's the Clear Creek cleanup. And so one of the things I try to do is, and I've been doing for years, is working with the Clear Creek Environmental Foundation. I'll take people from the Nassau Bay boat ramp, the Clear Lake boat ramp in 270 and bring them around to the peninsula and unload them and help them clean up. One of the funny stories was a few years ago I had a group of women rugby players. Ended up taking them around because of the tide. They ended up taking them around through the lagoon and dropped them off the peninsula. They could not wait to get in the mud and got the place cleaned up. After that, we go back to the 270 ramp and unload all the barges. So for the last 5 weeks, there's been people loading up the barges. So barges are full of trash. And then we unload the barges and have a meal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Public hearing, all please. Going once, going twice, sure. 3 times, public hearing's closed. And it is 8 after 7. Moving on to the council member comments. Paul?
A lot tonight. I thank everybody that sent you wishes. All I was hospitals, so thank you. My comment, snowman contest was a great big success, and it was a joining project for our city. I'm glad that took place. Now I also want to comment on the public works and their efforts to keep our city safe.
Hello. I want to echo what you said about the public works and keeping us safe. I really appreciate that. As well as our law enforcement officers, they've been dealing with some really crazy stuff the past few months, so shout out to them, and of course, fire and EMS too. So we just have such a great community. There's a lot of great things going on in this community, especially coming up. I'm excited for the future of Nassau Bay and everything that we've been doing. I also want to thank everyone for coming up here when you speak, and even if you give us little highlighted notes on your emphasis points, it's really great just to see and follow along and know that you just have 15 more seconds left because you're at the end of what you're reading. But I do appreciate the passion that people have for this community. And same goes with the applications, just a lot of really good applicants here. And Special Events Committee is always looking for volunteers. Even if you don't want to be on the committee, you can come help out with all the fun events. That's it.
Yes, I don't have much, other than it's good to see how many people have applied for the boards and committees, so that's very nice. Still working on the curbs. We're getting there. Still me. But hopefully during the summer, when it's a little bit more consistent with the weather, sunny days, we can get out there and get some more done. I've been doing some traveling recently. I went to D.C. for the inauguration, which was a great experience. Also went to Los Angeles for Disneyland recently. And in both of those locations, people just so happen to know about Nassau Bay. So, when you meet somebody, you tell them you're from Texas always. And then you tell them where you at specifically, and then they kind of know Nassau Bay because, JSC is right across the street. So it's so nice to see that people know our city, and we're kind of making it a lot better than what it's been in the past few years, making it very pretty. So it's very nice to see we've got a name out there. So that's it.
Not much to add, just to say, appreciate the cleanup of the bushes on Space Center here and looking good. And to Chief Cromie and just the stuff you've dealt with this week, a lot going on. Really appreciative, but other than that, nothing else to add.
Nothing really here. The Canby Snowman contest was a big success. I think they were stunned by the number of entries. I was like, you get a bunch of Texans with snow, they're going to make some snowmen, But I wanted to highlight that one of our residents, Ludwig Bransky, was awarded this really esteemed honor called the Dr. Jose Gonzalez Medal by the University of Nuevo Leon for all of his work treating burn care victims at a clinic in Monterrey, Mexico. I think it's a really amazing thing that he's been doing over the years, and he was given this honor. So just wanted to highlight that for a Nassau Bay citizen getting that. Other than that, the snow was cool. My kids loved it. They were off school for a little long, but that's okay.
Yeah,
and on to Ashley now.
Okay, not much to add, just I echo everyone's comments. That's amazing about Ludwig. I had no idea. Pretty cool honor. He does a lot of great stuff. Do want to give a shout out for the Moon Tree event to Laura, Michelle, and everyone on the Parks and Rec Committee. I kept wondering why they were going to have it in the park and not at council chambers like we did last time, but it was a top-notch, first-class affair. A lot of fun. Thanks to everyone that came out. Thank you to all the kiddos that came out. And thanks to Public Works for helping out with that night. Hope everyone has a wonderful Valentine's Day this weekend and is safe. Also, just a reminder to slow down. There's kids on the streets on bikes, scooters, mine included, and I know I take turns, a little fast sometimes myself, but just a friendly reminder to everyone out there, protect our children. Thanks.
Thank you. To me, couple of things. On the good side, I was really pleased with the multi-committee Economic Development Corporation meeting we had on Friday. I think a lot of good effort was made in coordination, and I think, as we'll see tonight on the agenda, there's quite an opportunity for economic development that's going to be really healthy for our city. So I was really glad to see as many people came out. Really put a smile on my face is the ADA merry-go-round. It's another, area where we've added access for ADA, and either children's, and I even say parents, grandparents with children, they both have challenges, and having another piece of equipment that allows access into the park is just us catching up with the times. And I've been seeing many pictures, and it's a bunch of kids having a whole lot of fun. So I was really pleased to see that. And moving right into that is the moon trees. I understand there was almost 150 people there. And what I really liked was the amount of turnout that came from NASA itself. There was a number of people at the director level. There was a number of people who were just coming over because they were feeling a bond to our city because of the space heritage. And I was really, really glad to hear and see that on both days. So I was pleased to see that. Another thing, yeah, everyone's mentioned about the snowman contest. I'm really interested in how they're going to do it annually. You know, I don't know if it's going to be for Holiday in the Park. We just need like 5 trucks or something like that. But it was. Yeah, it's what I thought that was that was there. But I do want to say one thing. I want to give visitors, it's even on the agenda here, is I don't know how many people know that the last original moon tree down in the park was vandalized. And it had 5 branches that were broken off. And what's even worse is somebody took a knife to the base of the sapling, the trunk, and ran a knife up and down it. So all the bark has been shredded off it. We have, believe it or not, we have an arborist. I didn't want to be a mayor that lost a moon tree, but we're going to lose this one. It's still green, but the arborist said it's not going to survive much more than 2-3 weeks. So there's it's sorry to report, but that's the truth, and we're gonna talk about it later this afternoon or this evening. The best thing is, I'm glad to see Paula next to me. You gave us a little bit of a scare.
Me too.
And I'm really, really glad to see you not only here, but also that you're signed up to be as an incumbent too. So I really appreciate that you're here. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Paul.
Thank you, Mayor. A lot of good things going on. Me and Aaliyah's probably been joined at the hip for the last few weeks, getting everything going. So last 2 weekends, we've had street sweeping in the city. It's looking really good. This Wednesday, we have our water line contractors mobilizing with their equipment and materials for the 12-inch water line replacement project along Nassau Parkway. And this is $1 million project, so we're pretty excited about this. Also, on Wednesday, we have the stormwater contractors mobilizing on Point Lookout around Booth Bay, and that's about a $190,000 project. And then we're finalizing all the engineering on the $500,000 street renovation project. So we're pretty excited about that. And I've been working with Frontier about the last few weeks, and they will start a replacement fiber optic project on Point Lookout and Space Park heading west to the 1100 buildings. And so from there, we will start negotiating how they're going to come into the city. So pretty excited about that. And then working on a few other projects. So beginning this week, you'll see a lot of construction. We will be pushing a lot of stuff out on Facebook and updating our website probably every 3 to 4 weeks. And so
Just to add to that project that's up on Nassau Road 1, that is the project to help out the water pressure in the city. There were 2 items that came up in an audit that said we were seriously risking losing our ISO level 2 rating. One was pressure, and this is a upgrade of not only the size, but we're also straightening out a number of elbows. So not only will it address that, I'm even hoping it helps out your water pressure in your kitchen sink. So, but that's an important one. That's insurance money saving. So, okay. Anything else, Paul?
no, sir. Thank you.
I just have a quick question about
Yes,
the
ma'am.
water and wastewater. We're a little over the water loss of 11%. What are we doing to get to?
So we typically are around 10%. We like to stay around 10%.
Okay.
That's about average. I know we've been working with a couple of private owners. I think they've got a small leaks that we've identified, and I believe that There was another leak that we had identified a few weeks ago. So we try to stay around 10%. That's really good. Yes.
The other is we, later on this year, we have the last 4 miles, linear miles of the water distribution system getting done. There's lines that are leaking down there that we can't
Yes.
see, and that will certainly address it too.
Good, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? Chief?
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor and Council. The numbers for January 2025, 225 calls for service, 38 reports were taken, 100 traffic stops. I don't know how we made a zero, a round number there, but 100 traffic stops, 68 citations, 50 warnings, 11 arrests, 10 were misdemeanors, 1 was a felony, 5,187 patrol miles, and our average response time was 3 minutes and 97 seconds. And that's all I have. So,
Quick
yes.
question. We have some overdose issues in the city. Did they survive? Were the police able to use a Narcan? How did that pan out?
There were none that I'm aware of that Narcan was used or anything like that, so.
Okay, in January.
In January, we had a couple where they were attempted, but
Okay.
I don't think they were to that level where they were already unconscious or anything, if I remember from reading the reports. So they were just transported to the hospital.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Matt?
Yeah, good evening. Simple metrics report for you. So just your volunteer fire department in January ran 35 calls, had 1,480 hours, volunteer hours to the city, and surprise, surprise, we stand at 40 members, so holding strong.
Been pretty stable there.
We have been pretty stable. It's funny because we lose people and we think that's going to change, but then we just voted someone in the other night, so constant, steady stream. Maybe it goes back to what you were saying about Nassau Bay being an attractive area. Even folks that live at Webster that, are somewhat outside of the area or work in the area, which is what they have to do to meet our criteria, are just drawn to volunteer here versus going somewhere else. So
It's
great
that's
thing.
a lot.
Yep.
Thanks.
Glad to have
Matt.
it. Yeah.
EMS?
I do exist in person. The EMS department ran 105 calls last month. In the month of January, we transported 92 patients. We have a response time of 4 minutes and 58 seconds in the city. And just to your point about overdoses, if you ever see those on there, that could be also medication. So the patient might have overdosed on their own medication. So it's a kind of a blending.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Yep.
You bet.
All right. Code enforcement?
Yes, Tony wasn't able to be with us, he's out, but he did did give me a report. There were 9 notices mailed out, and we did notify the house on Nassau Bay Drive, and they did get a permit.
I
Yes,
was
sir.
gonna say,
Yep, yep.
I
And so,
appreciate that.
Yep, so he's staying on top of all that.
Yep.
That's all I have.
Public Works?
Good evening. As Paul mentioned, we do have several capital improvement projects coming up this week. We also held a basic water course training for our newer Public Works employees. It's a 20-hour course. For the water department, we read 1,500 meters for utility billing. And we've been doing maintenance and repairs to our equipment for our upcoming projects. We replaced the water pump and did a tune-up on our skid steer, and we replaced the wood on our 16-foot trailer. The wastewater department is running under normal operations. The parks department assisted in the Moon Tree event. That was a big success. We also did our monthly mowing and maintenance to the peninsula. And tree trimming continues around the city. For the street department, we put no fishing signs along the boardwalk, and curb painting has been ongoing. Animal control, we have 9 dogs in the shelter, along with 12 cats, and we're at max capacity. So adoptions are always encouraged. And that's it.
Any questions for Elias? Special Events Committee?
The Special Events Committee, I went to their meeting on Tuesday. They're going to have meetings the first Tuesday of every month now. So it's regular so people can know when to go. And they are on top of things. They are, they're doing really well. They're talking about all the events throughout the year. They're planning, they're looking at their budget. It's just been fantastic. So they're really rolling and moving, and I was very impressed when I went to that. So the next one, I don't have the date, but it's obviously going to be Easter. So we'll.
Eight people were there?
Yeah, it was full.
Yeah,
It was.
really-
It was.
yeah, that's great.
One was on the phone, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was a full committee meeting, so it was good to see, and I'm excited about the events that are coming
Yep.
in the future.
Parks and Rec?
Okay, so yeah, we're going to start off with the moon tree. I did this little, well, actually, somebody helped me do this little moon tree presentation and a little presentation so you guys can see it visually because it was pretty cool. We had 2 days, Friday night and Saturday night. The Friday night, January the 31st, was the anniversary of the launch of Apollo 14, where the moon tree seeds came from. And then these are the plaques that are going to go up out there. You'll see that we're going to replace the plastic ones. These are going to be metal. And we dedicated the moon trees this year to Buzz Aldrin, resident of Nassau Bay. And he was a resident when he was the second man to walk on the moon. And also we dedicated to George Abbey, the astronaut maker. If you guys don't know, he was a vital member of this community, and he was also the director of JSC for many years, and he had a book written about him called The Astronaut Maker. So those 2 trees are going to be dedicated. They were dedicated this event, and that will make a total of 6 moon trees. That means we have the largest moon tree garden in the world next to the Kennedy Space Center. So that was pretty cool. The moon tree president told us that. And then what we had on the weekend was the Boy Scouts came out and launched 14 rockets. I think the mayor was competing to see his rocket.
That little kid beat me. I thought I
It
had
was
the
really
highest.
cool.
That little kid.
We launched it to the song The Final Countdown, which was pretty fun. And then we had, like the mayor said, there was a lot of people. There was a space shuttle astronaut, Marco. He's in the picture right there, Runco. And also you see Boris there. He was a former NASA employee. There's a pilot next to him from NASA. So there was a lot of people that came out from NASA on both days. Gary Mossman was named the Moon Tree Ambassador because he was the first one to bring a moon tree here to the Webster Presbyterian Church. For those of you who don't know, that used to be the Church of the Astronauts. All the original astronauts, and then also Buzz Aldrin went there, and he brought the communion chalice to the moon to do communion on the moon when he was a resident here of Nassau Bay. Also, Carl Guderian was there, and when I asked the kids, do you know who Buzz Aldrin is? He raised his hand, and he said, yes, I taught Buzz Aldrin how to use the lunar drill. And I was like, do you see who lives in our community? It was just awesome. There was a lot of people there. I mean, like Boris was helped do the patches, and so everybody was there really excited about our branding, as the home of the astronauts, which
He was 92.
Yeah, I believe that that's attracting some developers here to the neighborhood. They're saying that this is a really benefit for us to have that kind of branding. So we all planted the tree and threw some ceremonial dirt on there. Everybody got into it, and this was all the kids that showed up from the Boy Scouts too, and local children. We had the space cow out there from Chick-fil-A. It was a pretty cool event. So just wanted to show some pictures so you could see what that was like. Also, Joyce Abbey came out and made a presentation, a dedication, and then we also wanted to thank the Public Works. Elias is always so humble about all the things that he does. And the people setting up the tent, yes, clap for him.
Yeah.
The people setting up the tent.
You saved the day that night.
Oh, they saved the
Yeah.
day. The people setting up the tent were having a hard time because of the wind, and they were late. And so, I mean, Shelby and Robert and everybody, Jose, they were all jumping in there, putting up balloons. They saved the day. It was, I love them. They're the best, and they helped with everything. So all the cool stuff that you guys got to see, they were part of. Also, he didn't mention, like also, I'm going to say how Elias does a million things. He always they put up these banners. If you guys saw, we had the new Moon Tree banners. A lot of people asked us if they could buy these. So the committee had voted that yes, if you would like to buy one, we've been selling them for $75 each. All the funds go to the city of Nassau Bay to go back towards other Moon Tree projects. So if you hear this and you're wondering, how can I get my banner, and you haven't gotten it yet, just email me at nbparksandrec@nassaubay.com, and we'll get it organized so you can pick it up here at the city, or we can have somebody deliver it to you. So hope you guys are enjoying those. We talked about the Moon Tree damage a little bit. I just kind of wanted to show the council a picture of it so you could see that where the bark is, somebody literally ripped it off. We talked to the arborist, like the mayor said, and he said it wasn't a critter, it was definitely vandalism, and that he didn't think the tree was going to make it. So I know you're talking about that later, just wanted you to see a photograph of that. Oh, sorry. To update, the same thing, that we gave you guys all an astronaut. When I first got on the Parks Committee, I saw these and said, we need to pass these out as part of like swag. And so we did pass these out this weekend, and we're going to be passing them out at other events, like when we dedicate the Apollo Dog Park sign. It's in the final stage of being produced, so hopefully within the next 30 days, we'll be able to do a dedication ceremony down at the park. The committee was asking maybe even to put a flag behind it, because it would look kind of cool and match that. Then the little QR codes are being made. Each one of the plaques that you see out there and also at the park on the moonwalk, we call it the moonwalk, where you can walk by and read about that. You'll be able to, that will hook up to the NassauBay.com webpage, and it'll have a page on the moon trees, on each astronaut, Buzz Aldrin, and how they're tied to the city. I'm getting historical photos to put on there, so it's all moving along. That's pretty cool. Looks nice. Also, we talked about the merry-go-round. There's a photograph of it. The kids are loving it. I got a ton of thank yous on that. So now we have two of them, one in Swan Lagoon and one in David Braun Park. Very popular. And Alias did that too. He doesn't talk about all the work that went into that. He had to rearrange pipes and all kinds of things. So he does a lot of things that he didn't take credit for. That's the wrong date. It's March the 8th, sorry. March the 8th is going to be Beautification Day. We're going to do it with the Garden Club. Same thing, putting in flowers, and we hope you guys will come out and volunteer for that. We'll have to clean up the peninsula as well. We have to do 3 events a year to keep Texas Beautiful or Keep Nassau Bay Beautiful Commission. We're going to help out with this weekend with the event that Jim Stoa talked about. And we have to take pictures of the trash and log the trash and things like that. We'll do the same thing on Beautification Day. Paula mentioned about the little library. We're putting that in. That's going to get ordered. We voted that in. I know the pickleball court, Mayor, you said that you were in the process of getting that finalized.
They're doing a rendering. We've changed a little bit, and I have not seen it, so, yeah, okay.
So we're waiting on the new design so we can finish that up, and that's another thing that Alias is doing that he doesn't take credit for. The floating dock, this weekend, the mayor and I went out and met the vendor for that, and he got a chance to see it. It's the same thing that you guys have already seen when we did the budget. And we're just basically going to maybe add some lights on it, so there's some for safety. And we're going to take it to the committee on the 19th. Next week is our next meeting, and then after that, we're going to go ahead and get it through.
Chief, if there's anything else from a safety-wise that you would like, now's the time for that input. We were out there, and when somebody went flying by, and we were thinking about nighttime, we added lights so that it's going to be sticking out there. But any input that you can give safety-wise would be much appreciated.
Yeah, let us know, because we'll have the meeting. And then also, we did have them go out and look at the boat, so you guys can park your boat in that dock if you want to as well, to take it over there, and you'll be able to dock your boat on that floating dock. So the police fire boat will be able to do that as well. Then our next big project will probably be the trash cans replacement, which we're going to get into. We'll just be, Alias is also helping us with that. And you're going to get more benches and tables and fix those lights by Founders Park. I also didn't mention the art stuff. We're still working on the statue for Buzz Aldrin, which I think there's some interesting developments that are.
I don't want to say right now.
We don't want to say right now, but it's kind of exciting that we're going to be getting that statue maybe sooner than later. And then also, we're still working on the box wraps. I've got the information from the League City people that we're getting together with them, and also renovating that artwork out there on Saturn. Not Saturn, is that Saturn? Yeah, Saturn. So that's the annual peninsula cleanup, that we're going to have a tent out there with water and some items to help you clean like we usually do. So come out and help, and you can meet up with Jim, maybe go on the boat to get some food afterwards. A lot of times he brings the food over. So yeah, we'll have a table out there if you guys want to come by and help out. Like I said, we have to do these events to make sure that we keep our standing so we volunteer with them. So anybody have any questions?
No,
and
but
I do
want to point out, because I was remiss, Rosemary Russa, if you look, there's been a painting change here in City Hall. She gave us that painting right there, or I guess it's a collage. If you look at the perimeter, all of those are patches for the Apollo program, and this with Neil Armstrong on the moon was created by patches. So if you go up real close, it's actually a whole assortment of the individual patches that they did to be able to create that scene. It's not a picture in itself. it's a collage of the patches, which I think is really cool. And she donated that to us as just recognition of the moon trees.
Yeah, and if you guys don't know, those two portraits on the back wall actually have seeds from the moon tree. She gave that to us for the first dedication we did in 2023. So this is a real big honor to have this president of the Moon Tree Foundation here. She's asked all over the world to come and dedicate trees, and she comes out here for us. And now, since we're the second largest, and El Lago's trying to catch up, but they're not going to catch us. Yeah, we're winning. Do you guys have any questions?
What's the Corvette picture?
Sorry, what?
So a citizen, you know, at the Garden Club, it was actually in December, actually had that and wanted to donate it as long as we paid for the frame, and is a picture of the Corvinauts, I think they call them.
Yeah.
And it's three astronauts. They've signed it, and it's there was a policy of giving the Corvettes to the astronauts. And so we've got both these that were I gave to Paul just this week, so just last week. So.
And probably I'll have to put in one of these stories on one of the web pages that it was, I think it was Ed Mitchell that used to drive that around the city and terrorize people. And so he was one of the astronauts that was on Apollo 14 that brought the moon seeds back too. So one of our residents was on that mission to the moon. So it's pretty cool.
We thought these were better than the Prudential
I like
building.
those too.
Which is no
So these are
longer
historical artifacts that you have on the wall there.
Yep.
So anything
Okay.
else?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Apologize. Next item is the consent agenda. This will be done in one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these matters. They'll be discussed if desired by any councilman, or any item that will be removed from the consent agenda will be considered separately. The ones are two, which is A, consideration of possible action to approve the minutes of December 9th, 2024, City Council regular meeting minutes, and January 13th, 2025, City Council regular meetings. Anybody want to take anything out? Anything need more questions or comments? Then I call for a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second? Second. Second by Paula. Any further questions or comments? Then I call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. The next item is old business, which is council discussion regarding the agreement between the City of Nassau Bay and owner Dr. Mae Jamison regarding the property located at 18410 Kingstown Court, Nassau Bay, Texas, 77058. We're committed to be giving an update on this property every month until it finalizes. It's going into a little bit of a serious situation here. Hopefully we can avoid it, but it's I'll let you take it from here.
We've hired Andrews Kurth, the law firm, to proceed with this. We've got a contract with Ms. Jamison. It's got a scope of work, it's got a timeline, and she's violated all the timelines, and we've had enough. So we've given her notice, and we've met with the lawyer, and here we're prepared to take it to court. That's where we are.
And just so you know, and I want this to be transparent, this could cost us up to $100,000, maybe even a little bit more. But at some point, this isn't the city doing this. This is a property that's in ill repair, and at some point you have to draw the line. And I believe the sense of council is it's unanimous that we've long crossed that line, so we are taking the legal action. Okay. Any other questions? Any other comments from council here? Then I'm going to move on to new business. Consideration and possible action, second and final reading of the ordinance 2025-01-13-1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay amending the ordinance number 2017-767 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance by updating the regulations for specifically addressing emergency backup generators in residential districts, including setback requirements
for whole house generators and other smaller equipment, establishing provisions for the elevated equipment and grandfathering provisions, installations, providing for penalties, severability, codification, and providing an effective date. This is specifically an update to our ordinance. This is a second and final reading. This is to move the setback from 3 feet to 5 feet. Are there any questions, any comments? I very much support this. I would like to ask for a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 2025-01-13-1, an ordinance of the City Council of Nassau Bay, amending ordinance number 2017-767 of the comprehensive zoning ordinance by updating the regulations for specifically addressing emergency backup generators in residential districts, including setback requirements for whole house generators and other similar equipment, establishing provisions for elevated equipment, and grandfathering previous installations, providing for penalties, severability, and codification, and providing an effective date.
Do I hear a second? Second by Haley. Any other questions? Any other comments? Then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. There you go. Thank you for your persistence here, Becky. Appreciate it. Yep. Next item is consideration and possible action, first reading of the ordinance. Again, this is a first reading. Ordinance 2025-02-10-1, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, establishing time limitations on any permit issued for building constructions and/or renovation, providing that any person violating the terms of this ordinance shall be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor and upon conviction shall be fined a sum not to exceed the maximum allowable by law, and each of the violations shall be deemed a separate offense, providing a severability provision and providing an effective date hereof. A little bit of background here. We have a number of homes for new construction. We have, I'd say actually 2 that were new construction. We have about 4 which have been elevated that have been the never-ending story of construction. This is a ordinance that will, I believe, establish 18 months as the time frame that if you submit a permit for that construction, it needs to be complete, or there needs to be a resubmission for things approved by the city manager in order to address what are chronically, vacant and in construction homes. Any questions or comments on council? Because this is a first reading. Yep. Yep.
Number 5, which talks about if you're having an elevation done, it's not subject to these limitations. But then,
Except for what's left over after.
After it's
right,
done.
so do people get permits after their home is elevated for the completion of the work?
No, it'd be the
So
same
what is-
permit.
No, I thought there was a separate, I thought they got a separate permit, yeah.
Is there a separate permit?
I believe there is.
Not for sure. I'd have to look into it. I'm not
Yep.
familiar with.
Because you're not required as part of the elevation, but you're contracted to finish it. So there's a contract with the elevation, but you have to actually get a permit for that finishing work to be done.
But this just exempts the elevation, and the rest of it is still subject to the same thing anybody else would be.
Yeah.
So then it would expire at what point beyond the completion of the elevation work? Because this reads to me that once your permit is issued, it expires after a year, or what does it say?
18 months.
Where's the 18 months?
Well, except it has that exception language in it.
So what?
What's the clock?
So let me thing is, I believe this is a case, don't hold me exactly. I believe that when you are approved for an elevation grant, that it goes to a specific time period that it opens up. We have Jeff Ward who manages those things. We've done approximately 87 of them, 90 of them so far since the program started. We've got about another 19 that are going to come up. But you have, once you're in the slot where you get the money, I believe you have 3 years in order to be able to agree whether or not to go into elevation or not. And then that expires. That grant expires. And then, but what I believe this does is that process goes on its own. That's really with what we have with FEMA. And then once you're done with all the actions of the elevation, then the other exterior work comes in, and then you would have to get a permit, and you'd have 18 months by which to clarify that.
So what requires you to get that permit? You're saying there's a contract with the city when you get an
There's actually
elevation grant?
it's a contract with the city and with FEMA.
So if that's the case, then we should have these permits right now for houses. Do people actually get these permits?
Do they have to get the permit for the aesthetics, I guess is the question, right?
The HOA manages like the aesthetics part of it, like
You're correct.
outforming the windows and the shrubbery and all that stuff. So there's a disconnect here, but yeah.
Well, then what, I don't understand what number 5 covers. I guess I'm still confused.
Let me read it again. Do you have it?
So I think Lucy, number 5 is saying like the city has, or the permit for the actual raising has taken place.
Right.
Outside
So
of that.
So this would be for the elevation itself. 'cause
Yeah.
you have to-
Exactly.
So when they bring the hydraulic unit in there to lift it up, that takes a permit.
Right.
Well,
And
you have
that's
a
only
permit.
fulfilling that
Right, but
one
then the
part.
last sentence says, "The structure shall once more be subject to the terms and conditions of this ordinance for any work other than the raised elevation."
I think
You-
he's talking about once it's been raised.
Once it's been raised.
The raised process is exempt.
That's
Once-
done,
Once
yeah.
it's been
Yeah,
raised,
correct.
then you're subject to this again.
Right, but I want to know, I want positive confirmation that we actually have permits after it's raised.
But
So,
I think it's still going to be a permit that you have to get.
Yeah.
It's just saying that the
I mean,
raised
any,
process of it is.
any work that's got to be done by a journeyman
So it's, okay.
at all,
For sure.
whether it's a pipe fitter, whether it's your utilities,
But
whether
that would all
it's
be done as part of the
structural.
elevation, though.
So,
No, this is saying once that.
but once that's done, if you
Okay.
have any other work, if you have any of those that require a journeyman, you must have a permit as part of the laws of the city.
Right,
You must.
yeah.
I agree with that. I just want, I don't know where the line is between elevating the physical structure. They
So-
reconnected as part
Right,
of that
right, you're
process.
saying they could fudge the lines a little bit.
So what I would suggest
I get it.
is, I mean, I don't want to hold this up, but what I would, can you help there to make sure
Yeah.
her needs done?
Yes.
And if not, can you shore up the language?
Yes.
In order
Yeah.
to do that?
Yes.
I mean, I get what you're saying, and I agree with it. I think we're covered,
Okay,
but
yeah, I just want to make sure.
I don't
that-
have proof positive
that we're
to show
actually
you
getting-
that. And the only way to do that is to
Yeah, I agree.
Otherwise,
ask our
if you
city
don't have an
attorney.
HOA, then there's absolutely nothing
Yeah,
to help
correct.
you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay.
Okay, you got that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Can I get some color that might be helpful to this?
if you're short.
So, Lucy, once the homeowner has elevated and they get the certificate of elevation, right? That means that FEMA and Jeff Ward, they're done. That means they're done on getting your house high. Then you have 1 year, the homeowner, 1 year at that point, to finish doing things like wrapping your stairs, et cetera, that are required from the
Yeah.
HOA. But there's no additional, I never didn't have to go get any additional permits. Now, I had a bunch of permits, $4,000 worth, right? And then you get all the green checks along the way from the building inspector at the time. But then when I'm done, I had one.
But I want to clarify something, Pete. Did you have to take out a permit for what you did?
I had $4,000 in permits.
Yeah,
But
the-
I did not go get, once I got my certificate certificate of elevation, I did not have to go back to the city and get any more permits. I was done.
Because my understanding is that you had
That's what I'm
work that
asking.
didn't require a permit. If you did any future work on your house, it just did not require a permit. It may have been just simple, woodwork that was aesthetic and not structural. But in any event, I don't want to
Yeah.
belabor, because I agree with your point. I want to make sure that there's no gap,
Okay, yeah,
and we'll cover that.
I'm good with that.
It's a good point.
Also, just as a note, it says that raised elevation work. I think it should be than raised elevation work. On that last sentence, that should be a than.
Also, one other thing, Mayor, I would say, like,
Yeah, that's a typo.
Gotcha, okay, just wanted to make sure.
That's all right.
backing up the HOA because they don't have a leg to stand on. I really do feel like there needs to be more structure around like finishing out the bottom, because at this point, the HOA and the Architectural Control Committee is the only one dictating how that gets finished out. And case in point, on Upper Bay, there's still a home raised with no windows in the bottom.
More than one.
And you don't want to have that, continue on, I would just say. So any teeth we can put behind this, I would say, help out the HOA in trying to finish out what is required to do.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm 100% behind Haley on this
Yeah.
one. That's my concern, finishing the work product.
I think we got it. Yep, I think it's great. Okay.
There were some years ago where the state legislature changed and had state statutes that they took that ability away from the cities to legislate finishing on homes and things.
That's only certain products, or certain masonry and things of that nature. It's not everything. But there are some things that are exempt, and that's true. Where,
What we're saying, though, is whatever is required to complete the house, that they even, particularly at elevation, they've got to do that they complete it, otherwise there'll be fines.
Which I just want to put on for the record, like, it's hard to elevate your home and finish it all out. It's a lot of money, I get it. But you don't want to leave it unfinished. So whatever we can put in here to make that happen,
I agree.
Would advocate for it.
That's the point of
it
this.
sounds like a bifurcated permit where you're going to have two permits. I think you're going to mandatorily have to have the second permit. We may not have been doing that.
Yeah,
Right.
find out. Okay. That's first reading. Any other comments on this? Anything else that you see? That was a good one, Lucy. Then we'll hold it over for a second reading. Next is the consideration and possible action to approve the interim city manager's recommendation to accept the proposal from Jeff Ward and Associates for the grant administration, field service, engineering services related to the 2022 FEMA program project scoping grant, and to authorize the interim city manager to execute an agreement for these services. This is for the lifting. If you want to give a little bit of background, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, this is for the 2022 project scoping grant. So the
Which
purpose
we're
of...
just about ready to go into.
Yes, so this was, so the purpose of this is the engineers, they're going to go and produce maps that graphically present flood zones, single-family residential addresses, finished floor elevations, adjacent ground elevations, and base flood elevations. And after this will help us identify which homes will be eligible for the next round of raising
I'm
projects.
mistaken, so this is really the background information to further
Yes.
any additional homes. We've done almost 90, we've got 19 to bring it to about 110. And to facilitate continuing the program and
That's
make sure we
correct.
get everybody, we're making sure that the proper amount of credits are given that would allow people to be part of this program.
That is correct.
Is that a fair way of looking
Yes.
at it?
And then an
Yeah.
added bonus, this will also help us with our CRS
Yeah.
rating as well.
Yep, correct.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Jeff Ward is our guy.
Okay,
so-
right. No, I understand. I just have a couple of questions, if it's okay for Jaime. The purpose of this would be you don't have to show repeated flood loss. They would say, oh, we're just calculating based on your elevation in the study. It's just for elevations, it doesn't show water flow movements?
It's just for elevation purposes, yes.
So it doesn't predict any water flow or areas that we're going to have difficulty with stormwater drainage?
No.
Okay, just want to clarify that. And then does it replace having to show repeated loss then, or what's the overall, I know, I'm just curious over here.
Keep going,
Yeah.
you're on. It's-
Yes, that is correct. So, they'll still be required to do a benefit cost analysis, because that'll determine how many homes will be in that round. Some will pull most of the weight, but it'll definitely increase the amount of homes that we can elevate in the future.
Okay.
Yes.
And then my final question is just on the timeline. I know this scoping grant that we received was from 2022, and we're now just being able to get the funding and let one of the contract that we're going to select or accept perhaps a recommendation of. I don't understand why it says the application will be ready for submittal on November or January 9th, 2024. Is that just when we originally put the grant out that we thought it was going to be 2024? What's the date?
So the application was submitted January 2023. That's when the application was
Okay.
submitted.
It's just
Yes.
dates all over the place here, but is,
So what page are you looking
the
at?
second page of the actual proposal narrative for section 3, the first page is the blue highlight at the top. And it's the second page that shows the grant and development timeline in the second paragraph.
Okay, let me see here. That is probably should be, yeah, I think that's a typo on that part. Yeah, because.
I think it's a typo.
Yes, because once you approve this, then we'll begin the work, and we have till, I think, December of 2025 to get this completed.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are all my questions.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Anybody else? Then I need to ask for a motion.
I move to approve the interim city manager's recommendation to accept the proposal from Jeff Ward and Associates for grant administration, field surveying, and engineering services related to the 2022 FMA program project scoping grant, and to authorize the interim city manager to execute an agreement for these services.
Do I hear a second? Second by Paula. Any further questions? Then I want to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Agenda item number 4, consideration and possible action, a resolution number 2025-02-10-1, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, providing for a special city election to be held in said city of the 3rd day of May 2025 for the purpose of submitting to the qualified voters of the city certain proposed amendments to the existing charter of the city, stating the subject matter of the proposed amendments to the city charter to be voted upon at said election, designating the polling place and appointing election officials for such election, providing the form of ballot for such election, and directing the giving of notice of such election, and providing the details related to the holding of such election. Rhea, did you want to give any further background on this? I mean, we're going to have an election.
That is correct. So we are
This is
mandated.
pretty much housekeeping.
It is. We are scheduled to have a general election, which is the next item, and also this is a special election for the charter amendments
Yep.
that council has, well, the charter review committee recommended and council approved.
We have to do this, otherwise it won't happen, right?
Correct.
So we have to do this. Any questions?
So I have only one, the way this was written was a little confusing, because it was like all the proposed things, and then it helped me to flip to the end and see how the voters were going to read it. That really was what really helped. But and I remember all this from discussions with the Charter Review Committee, that this was, I remember the reasoning behind all this stuff. My only concern is on the language for Proposition B regarding the chairperson of any board, committee, or commission of the city shall be selected and designated by city council. And Mr. Gregg can help me or help us with this, but it says it should be designated by city council unless the selection is expressly left by city council to the discretion of the member of the board, committee, or commission. What does that mean? Does that mean if the ordinance?
Where are you?
On proposed amendment number B. Page 2. It says the chairperson at the bottom, after we list all the ones that are exempted, it says the chairperson of any board, committee, or commission of the city shall be selected and designated by city council unless the selection is expressly left by city council to the discretion of the members of the board, committee, or commission. Well, I do remember in our committee ordinance we passed, we did say that they would elect their own chairperson.
Well, that controls it then. That's all this is saying is that if they haven't spoken to it, when we create the committee, then it will be done by the selection of the city council.
Okay, so the ordinance would trump this?
Yes.
Okay. The next.
If it's silent, the ordinance would control.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next line, it says, no chairperson shall be appointed to serve more than 4 consecutive terms. We said in that ordinance that chairpersons were limited to 2 calendar years. So I find that confusing again, so.
Well, the charter
I'm
would.
not so sure that's confusing. I think that may be an error.
The charter would be a superior power to what we've passed so far. This would be controlling if you pass it, if it's get approved.
So our ordinance, that element of our ordinance wouldn't have.
That's correct. This would replace any conflict with the ordinance. This would have to be followed if it's approved by the voters. Because it's a charter change.
Okay.
So, yeah, so
I guess I'm confused why we put that in the ordinance
I am
just
too.
like
I think
6
it's a
months ago.
mistake. I'm worried it's a mistake. And if we can correct it here, this isn't a first reading.
Well, except this is the language that came out of the committee.
I do remember what our purpose behind that ordinance, you guys were trying to prevent, or what we were seeking, I guess, was to prevent, a chairperson sitting for years and years and years. We were hoping to get some movement within committees, and even if the person wasn't elected as the chairperson, they would be still on the committee, but they just wouldn't be in the chairperson role.
What number, what paragraph are you specifically at again?
Right here.
Proposed amendment B, page 3.
Page 3.
And then the ordinance,
Starting with no chairman, no chairperson.
yeah, no chairperson.
Yeah.
Chairperson
But that's the
appointed.
language that was approved by the committee, and that's the way it has to go to the voters. That's the mechanical process to follow. So.
I guess, had we passed this ordinance when
We did.
You passed it in anticipation of this being considered but being delayed, and so you passed that to have a stopgap measure. This language will control if it conflicts with what you've already passed.
Okay.
And you don't have the power to change what the committee did. You deal with what you were served.
See, our ordinance says, "The board, commission, and committee shall elect one of its members to be the chairperson, and that election shall be promptly accomplished and completed within 45 days of the removal, resignation, or expiration of the term of the outgoing former chairperson. Any vacancy in the office of chairperson lasting beyond that deadline for action may be filled by city council, so the board, commission, or committee may function with a leader. The term of any chairperson of any board, committee, or commission shall be 2 calendar years. An outgoing chairperson, after completion of a 2-year term, shall be ineligible for reappointment or reelection as chairperson so long as that individual served as any part of a 2-year term as chairperson. And this ordinance shall be prospective in application for any term of any member of any chairperson."
Right.
So I guess I'm just, why did we do this?
Let me tell you, because as I reread this,
Uh-huh.
the piece that you're having is no person shall hold a chairmanship for more than 4 whole or partial consecutive terms.
It doesn't
This is
say
more for the
partial,
overall-
though.
This is for the overall term limits to 4 terms, not the chairmanship within it.
Okay, so you're,
It doesn't address it in the charter, so it would go to the ordinance.
The ordinance would control it as long as it's not in conflict with the charter.
Yes, all this is saying is, no chairperson or appointed member shall be appointed to serve for more than 4 consecutive terms.
Right.
Period. That's the term limit. That's the same as us on council. And he or she shall hold office until his or her successor has been appointed and qualified. No person shall hold a chairmanship for more than 4 whole or partial consecutive terms.
Hey, I have a dumb question, just for the record. What is the term? 2 years?
2 years, yeah.
So
They're already stated in the thing that is part of our our charter that had already established. This is just an addition to
No,
our charter.
I get it. I'm just
Yeah, they're 2 years.
clarifying for the people listening
They're
what
2
what
years.
the term limit
Yeah,
is.
they're
Okay.
2-year terms. I don't see this addressing a restriction of the chairmanship, this is just term limits itself.
I agree.
So I don't think there's a conflict. Sarah?
I don't know, I'm just reading this, an outgoing chairperson, after completion of a 2-year term, shall be ineligible for reappointment or reelection as chairperson.
Yeah, so that's,
You're reading the ordinance now.
Yeah, that's the
correct.
ordinance, so,
So why
why-
is that in conflict with no chairperson shall be appointed to serve more than 4 consecutive terms?
because it says that you can't serve more than one 2-year term.
So you can't do more than 4, which is just overall things. It doesn't say what's the minimum. It says just what's the max.
Well, I thought that this says what's the max, you know, they can't serve more than one 2-year term. Chase, do you have any opinion on this? You're an attorney too.
Yeah.
I do have a little bit of an opinion. So I think that the ordinance, I don't necessarily believe is in conflict with this, because this is just saying that you can't go over that, and this isn't in conflict with that, because that ordinance is stating that clearly you can't do more than 2 years. So that would fall, you would be out of that position before you would ever hit this 4 years. So I don't think that this would be necessarily in conflict with it. My other thing was, Dick, you were saying that this came out of the Charter Review Committee. Is that what has to go onto the ballot?
Yes.
Okay, so we can't change this anyways?
No.
And at the end of the day, the voters would be able to decide whether or not they wanted this to go
Correct.
forward.
Yeah, correct.
So, one, I don't think it's necessarily in conflict, and two, it's something that we have to put forth on the ballot anyways, because it came out of the Charter Review Committee as this language. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, so, basically, this is like the max cap on what a committee or a chairperson could ever do. But our ordinance says they can only be the chairperson for 2 years. But this is like the ceiling. So if we were to pass an ordinance later on saying, we want to have 6 consecutive terms, nope, our charter says 4. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if the charter controls the 4, then that'll dictate what you can do in the future by ordinance. And if it doesn't pass, then you don't have to worry about it. Your ordinance will be the only thing that speaks to it. But you can't, there's a process you have to follow. We're following that process. It went through a committee. The committee recommended this language.
Right.
And here we are.
No, I value the committee's
I
input, I
remember the
understand.
discussion on this area was not about the restriction of the chairperson as part of the charter review. It was just, we wanted 4 2-year terms max. And the language that maybe is, I see what you says, no chairperson or appointed member shall be appointed for more than 4 consecutive terms. Right? I mean, it blends a little bit, but the whole intent on this was 4 consecutive 2-year terms is a limit. Was the intent of this, not how to manage the chairperson within the committee.
Yeah, and I think that the ordinance kind of would live inside of this, because you
Yeah,
can only
correct.
do those 2. So I don't think you're exceeding what the charter would potentially say. So I think the ordinance would probably control what the chairperson can do, and then this would just be an overlying thing. So I guess
Right,
if
this
later
is
on-
just a max cap or like,
Potentially.
Right.
But the ordinance, I think, would take precedent with regard to the chairperson and their specific
The
limit.
language would have been much better here. if
Yeah, it
just
could have been
said,
written a little bit better, but-
The members shall be
Yeah.
appointed to serve for no more than 4 consecutive, right, instead of separating out the chairperson.
Right.
I hear
I think
what
that they
you're
can
saying.
and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to
both live
confuse the
together.
issue, I thought I
No,
saw
that's-
direct conflict, and I was trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think it could have been written better, but I think we're in a position now where we have to go forward with this
I do
language
too.
because
I
it
do
came
too.
out of the charter.
I do too.
But I think that ordinance still holds true because it lives within inside the 4.
I asked Maria to put this in here because I wanted to make sure everybody saw what's going to go in.
And you can clarify the
Because it's a
ordinance
year-old.
later if you want to put some interpretive language in the ordinance, but you can't change this, but you can change the language of the ordinance.
Okay, so, okay.
Okay? Coming back to the housekeeping,
Do we need a motion for this?
I need a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2025-02-10-1, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, providing for a special city election to be held in said city on the 3rd third day of May 2025 for the purpose of submitting to the qualified voters of the city certain proposed amendments to the existing charter of the city, stating the subject matter of the proposed amendments to the city charter to be voted upon at said election, designating the polling place and appointing election officials for such election, providing the form of the ballot for such election, directing the...
I actually think you went to 5, didn't you?
No, it's still there.
Oh, is, okay, yeah, you're
Giving,
right.
yeah, it's a long one. Giving of notice of such election and providing details relating to the holding of such election.
Do I hear a second? Second by Paula. Any further conversation? Any further comments?
I would just say if the lawyers in this bench are confused on language, it is not understandable by any normal human being. Let me just state that for the record, because
Yeah.
I'm confused.
I always thought that was the duty of a lawyer.
If they're asking questions, there's confusion.
They're trying to put it.
Some people think we infuse confusion, but I
No,
don't.
you don't.
You insert confusion. Then I've got a motion and a second. I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Agenda item number 5, consideration and possible action, resolution number 2025-02-10-2, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, providing for a general city election to be held in said city of the third day of May 2025 for the purpose of submitting to the qualified voters of the city elections 3 council members, designating the polling place and appointing election officials for such election, providing the form of the ballot for such election, and directing the giving of the notice of such election, and providing details relating to the holding of such election. Any questions here? Again, this is housekeeping. Then I call for a motion.
It sounds like we're having an election no matter whether we're all unopposed or because of the charter review.
You have to have the charter election, but you don't have to have the other one if you don't have any contest.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Correct. So just to be clear for the citizens, just because we're setting up the resolution to have an election, if it's uncontested, we will not have the elections for the uncontested portions,
You'll actually cancel it.
the general election.
We'll breathe life into it and then we cancel it if it's not going to be needed.
Yep, but we need the lead time now
Yeah.
because this has to be done
The notices are
today.
required, yeah.
We still have early voting and all that if we're doing just the thing for the charter review?
You'll have early voting on
Oh,
charter.
okay, sorry.
That's going to go into number 6 if you look at it, so, but, yep.
I
Do
would
hear a
move to
motion?
approve resolution number 2025-02-10-2, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, providing for a general city election to be held in said city on the third day of May 2025 for the purpose of submitting to the qualified voters of the city, electing 3 council members, designating the polling place, and appointing election officials for such election, providing the form of the ballot for such election, directing the giving of notice of such election, and providing details relating to the holding of such election.
Second by Paula. Any further comments, questions, comments? Then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. Agenda item number 6, consideration and possible action, a request for the council authorizing to submit a letter of intent for joint election to contract with Harris County for the joint election services agreement for the upcoming May 3rd, 2025 special and general election. I very much believe that we should do this. Last year was, to me, an anomaly where they gave, if you remember, they gave very little notice. We had to jump through hoops. I believe it was for purposes that had ulterior motives, so I'm really glad they're coming back to this, as I thought they would. And I would highly recommend that we do this. It saves us about $20,000 plus in cash to have them run it. And it certainly takes a lot of the burden off our city secretary. Any questions? Do I hear a motion?
I move to authorize the submission of a letter of intent for joint election to contract with Harris County for joint election services agreement for the upcoming May 3rd, 2025 special and general election.
Do I hear a second? Second by Haley. Any further comments, questions? Then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. You got it. Number 7, which is consideration and possible action to authorize the mayor and the city manager to negotiate with the Nassau Bay Homeowners Association the acquisition of the finger piers. By what I mean is the finger piers, this is going down Upper Bay Road. There are slips as well as a boat ramp that are wooden. They're not in very good disrepair, but our fire department uses them for training purposes. It's the only formal egress out of that water body there, so to me, it's a safety thing. If we do not look at doing this, then the homeowners association is planning on disassembling them, and I think it's too important to have them there. I don't know what the terms of those will be. That'll certainly come back to council. I'm expecting whatever a minimum amount is that signifies a transaction, whether that's $1 or $100 or whatever it is, it'll be for us to take over, and we will then, as a council, take over those and then maintain, and well, we're going to have to repair them, but it's a necessary item in my humble opinion. Any questions here? Any?
Will there be an opportunity to give them an address then for emergency services or deliveries?
Yeah, I would certainly like to do that because, you know, you and I both had this conversation, so I appreciate you bringing this up, which is this would eliminate people doing, you know, Uber deliveries to people's homes on the cul-de-sacs.
Yeah.
They would actually have a delivery spot there, so you don't have to worry about bothering people and residents for the cove having boats out there wanting food. So I believe the answer is yes, we can give it an address.
Yes, Mayor, I believe we can.
Yep. Okay. Any other comments, any other questions, any concerns here?
No.
Then I'd like to call for a motion.
I'll do it. I'll give Chase a break. I move to authorize the mayor and/or the city manager to negotiate with the Nassau Bay Homeowners Association for the acquisition of the finger piers.
Seconded by Lucy. Any further comments? Then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. The next one is consideration and possible action. This is agenda item number 8, consideration and possible action to appoint 2 alternate members to the Board of Adjustment to expire in June of 2025, and to appoint 1 member of the EDC Board to expire in June of 2025. Just to remind, to educate the citizens and to remind the City Council, we had a workshop in regards to the committees, and one of the items, and this addresses that items, that if there's any bona fide open positions that were not where the person holding it, even if the term was expired, that if they weren't willing to hold over to June, that we wanted to know that. Maria has done a great job calling everybody. And out of all of our committees, we only have the 2 alternate members of the Board of Adjustment and 1 member of the EDC that has any open position on it. Everybody else said they wanted to be re-upped or will hold over so we can do it to the July timeframe, which is our intent. There's, if you remember, city attorney is putting together an ordinance to make all the terms and the staggers be in end of June for appointment in July, instead of having them throughout the year and the mess that we have with the publications for those. So it'll be one time, you know, appointments in July, but we have these 3, and to me, the ones that are, the one that is the most important is to me the EDC. You know, the other is our 2 alternate members. I'll just go out there as I've looked at the different ones. I'd highly suggest and recommend Rhonda Velders as a candidate for the EDC. And then I'm open for discussion on the two alternative members, or I at least throw that out to begin the discussion process.
Just as a reminder, according to EDC bylaws, the citizen member of the EDC cannot serve on any other city committees.
They cannot.
So, just a reminder.
They cannot. That's, in fact, I would like to make mention of something. Glenn Venables, excuse me, probably, highly capable person. He's on the planning commission. If he wasn't on the planning commission, I think we should seriously have looked at him. I think he plays a better role on the planning commission. And, if we were to put him on this position, he would have to leave the planning commission. And there's a lot of work that's going to come up on the planning.
Is Jay Campbell on the Maritime Safety Committee or no?
He is not.
Oh, no, okay.
He is not.
Mr. Haugen's already on Board of Adjustment, yes?
He is.
Okay, so he couldn't do it then.
Correct. And, if we just maybe take it by board first, anybody, from a standpoint, I'd like to hear any comments about Rhonda Velders for the EDC board. Maybe we can do one board at a time as a process.
I did, in her application, it stood out to me when she was saying, keep our city authentic.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And I know she's volunteered in the city.
She's the one who has not been involved in committees and that in the past, but yet she's probably I think the one who's been in the city the longest of all candidates.
Oh, okay, yeah, I was wondering about that. I was trying
Correct.
to flip through the dates, but I didn't have a
Correct.
summary. Yeah.
So I like a long-standing citizen getting involved for the first time.
I also like she was a small business owner.
She is a
That's
small
also
business owner.
Key for this type of role.
Yep.
And does she run her business in Nassau Bay? Do we know?
I believe it said she's runs her, I think it's.
Maybe out of her house? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Just from reading the applications.
I've met and interacted with Rhonda, and I also support her as well. One other thing I'd like to point out just on the application itself is that there's a question for have you attended Nassau Bay 101? Clearly, it's no longer applicable. Hopefully, we can bring it back at some point in time, but
we will.
Some people are not privy to be able to check that box.
Then could I have a motion, or at least on that part at this point?
I would move to appoint Rhonda K. Velders to the EDC Economic Development Committee.
Do I hear a second? Yep. Second by Ashley. Any other comments? Any other questions?
She's a counselor supervisor, so if we need any help, she
She
can come
can-
to the
she can
table
give us services.
to help us negotiate. And it's
Yeah.
only for a short term.
It is,
so
it is.
We'll see how it goes.
Then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0.
I just want to make a restatement here. Glenn's resume was so well done, and everything that I've seen him in, his
Absolutely.
data is so great.
And he's data-driven.
Right, he is, and that's
Yeah.
what I really like about him. But I don't want to lose his expertise on any of the committees that he might want to serve on.
Yeah.
So, just want that said again.
And just to reiterate, because people are not appointed to a committee, they can still come and attend the committee meetings and
They
provide
can.
input. So,
They can. And he
and they can
does.
also come to the events that
And
they
he
want to
does.
partake in.
And he
So,
does.
Yes.
Yep.
I like Glenn a lot.
So now the fun one, which is the alternates, which only get used in the case to get a quorum for the permanent seats. I'm open to suggestions here. There's, two new people, which are Jason, and I hate if I'm pronouncing this wrong, Coinst, and Jay Campbell. There's also something which it looks like an individual from the apartments who's here, which would maybe a good way to get some people involved from the apartments.
I'd like to just point out to you that Jay Campbell, he's on here, but he did not select the box for Board of Adjustment, so I don't know if that was an oversight or he should be removed from the pool of
Do you
candidates.
know, Maria?
Well, it should be on here, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's on
Oh,
here in
yeah,
the
he-
packet,
oh,
but
he's
it's,
in the
but
Board
he,
of
but
Adjustment,
in the check box for that, he does not have it on there. Jay Campbell. That, so we have to take Jay Campbell off. That's a mistake. No, for Board of Adjustment. He has it for EDC, but just not for the Board of Adjustment. We need two. Who? That's correct. That's what it, he's in the packet though for Board of Adjustment. That's all right. So I mean, to me, it goes, that leaves it down to Jason, Sanjana, Marlene. We just did Rhonda, so she's out, and Jay's out. You know,
Oh, yeah.
Sanjana, is she, I know she's like a contract employee for NASA. Does it say that she's not going to be here very long,
It
or do
says
we
she
know?
works for Texas A&M AgriLife.
Oh, I thought she was at NASA subcon, hold on.
she was a research intern there.
Oh, her background's NASA, got it.
Yep, correct. Okay. You know, if you want me to go out there, I think Jason and Sanjana look like two very good positions.
Yeah, I was kind of
candidates.
hoping for Sanjana for special events, but I guess they can.
She can be in there. She's not excluded.
Okay.
She's not excluded.
Very, very nice write-up on this
Yeah,
application.
it is.
Like, wow.
Unless, you know, help me guys. What
Is there any concerns about someone who's only been here for 3 months being on the Board of Adjustment?
you know, legally he says no,
Legally, no, yeah.
but I would say, yeah,
So that's why maybe, I was thinking special events might be good for
it's
a
very
new
true.
excited person.
Who would that leave if Sanjana is not on there?
Marley and Jason.
Is that it?
Those two?
Jason has applied, I think he's applied for everything. Clearly, he's very interested in serving the city, so,
Yeah.
you know, I think, are you guys saying Sanjana, she hasn't been here
Well,
very?
what it means though is just by process of
Yeah, but
deselection, that leaves only, if you say Sanjana is not,
Is Marley's application expired, though? If you look at the date. This isn't recent.
it's not, but all I'm saying is that's the only two we
Yeah.
have.
Well, I'm only seeing Sanjana and Jason now.
I prefer, because I know of those candidates, I would prefer Sanjana. Who, Board of
Board of Adjustment?
Well, they're usually ones that have to meet a lot, and then they don't for a while. And this is for an alternate, so this is for quorum purposes.
Yeah, so it really looks like there's only two.
I would suggest we do Jason and Sanjana.
Well, then I would move to appoint Jason Kunst and Sanjana Senthilkumar to the Board of Adjustment as alternates.
Yep, as alternate. Do I hear a second by Ashley? Any further discussion?
No, I'm voting, sorry.
All those in favor? Call for the vote. 7-0. Okay, agenda item 9, the discussion and potential action regarding the vandalism to the moon tree. I put this one on here, and if people are at the coffee, I kind of expressed some real frustration. And it's more a frustration that, for two reasons. One, we're just seeing some vandalism down in our parks more than I'm comfortable with. If I just go back a little bit, there's this event, there's the duck feeders, there are the tire squealing on the pavilion, and there's the Swan Lagoon painting. And I'm I guess past where I don't think we just look at cleaning it up and doing some things, but one, I want to give visibility that we've had 4 events of vandalism in our parks.
There's the duck feeders twice.
And the duck feeders
It was
twice,
twice.
right? So, you know, the second thing is I want to really give visibility, you know, because it really bothers me that something that's associated with our space history, you know, that those trees were part of a moonshot where you know, an astronaut who's back there who was a citizen here actually, you know, took those seeds and are either a cropping of or a second generation of, you know, that space history. And to have it destroyed like that is, to me, just can't go unanswered. You know, I'd like to at least hear if people are equally, if there's maybe we should really look at putting either cameras in. At a minimum, I'd really like to have a reward for information, you know, and I don't mean just a minor reward. I'd like to see us say like $5,000 for information leading to the identity and potential arrest, or whatever, however we do the things. But I'd like to see us, you know, come together as a community to be able to let people know that if we're going to put eyes and ears out there, we're going to reward people for finding this, as well as anything else we can do. And I don't know, Chief, if you think there's some things we can do for the parks, but I'm at the point where we can't just keep just turning the other way. It's happening too much in our parks.
That's what I was gonna ask, just the police input on like what we should do. I mean, I think outside of rewards, being able to monitor, just case in point, the missing persons case, and like being able to see what's going on in those parks after hours or anytime. I mean,
It's
my
been
kids are
brought
down
up
there
before.
too.
Yeah.
I feel like you should have a way to monitor it, but I'd like the police's input because I feel like they probably have the best advice.
Well, for this incident with the moon tree, the first I heard about it was this weekend when I read the agenda. There's been no report made to the police department. Nobody contacted us. So this.
I was told by a police officer.
There's been.
That raises a different. I'll come back to you. We'll
Okay.
talk about that.
All right, because I've checked with everyone I can check with.
Yeah, I was
And nobody
told by
seems
a
to know
police
about it. The incident a year and a half ago in Swan Lagoon, there was an investigation, and there were charges filed.
Yeah.
There were people identified. The incident on the pavilion with the tires, again, there was nothing that, I mean, there was no
We have a
information.
flock system, right?
I don't think we had the flock system at that time. I'd have to go back and remember. I don't remember us having the flock system. How long ago was that, Paul? Do you remember?
Yeah, I don't believe we had the flock system.
Yeah, I don't think we had the flock system when the incident occurred on the pavilion. And the duck feeders, again, there was no evidence or anything to follow up on. We did have a report on that one, but
Other than a smashed.
Yeah.
You know, lights.
Yeah. Right. So again, without evidence or anything to follow up. So again.
But that's more of a reactive, that it's happened, how do we investigate? I'm wondering, are there things to prevent? Is there, should we look at cameras or?
I wish I had an answer to be able to prevent those things. We can look at cameras. It depends on how much coverage you want, throughout the parks. Cameras are not out of the question. It's just going to be a feasibility and a money. How many cameras do you want?
Can I ask?
How much of the area do you want to cover?
Yeah, fair enough.
And then in the storage is more of the issue than the cameras themselves, is how long are you going to preserve this for, et cetera. So.
When the gate is closed, it closes at what, 11 or something, or 10? What time is that?
11.
Yellow. Okay.
11
So
o'clock.
once that closes, is there any patrol done back there by police?
The officers can go back there and they do make patrols.
Do they go back there on foot?
No, they have remote
Can I say it
controls.
differently?
Oh, they have a zapper, so they let themselves in and they go
Do
patrol.
we have a prescribed, path or patrol in the parks?
A schedule?
Scheduled.
No. The officers go back there as they see fit. If they see something back there moving, they see people back there fishing, they see people moving in the park, as they're making patrols go by, they'll go back in the park to find out, to address what's going on.
And
So-
also as a reminder, we have, what, two and a half policemen per shift?
Sometimes,
More if we
yeah.
can, but they're meant to patrol our streets. The park is closed. Likely nothing bad is going back.
No, actually,
but
the
graffiti-wise-
original reason why we closed it was to give the police reason to be able to go and address somebody, because if the park was open, there was nothing being done. The whole
Well, that's-
purpose behind having it closed at 11 is to give them power to be able to see if anything's
Understood.
happening.
Well, that's not
Understood. I just think
completely,
there's-
that's not
there's-
completely true, Mayor. Even before we had the gate was in, the officers were doing patrols back there and making quite a bit of contact.
Yeah.
I did a survey or a study of our calls in the park. I think it was a year ago or a year and a half ago. And more of the activity at nighttime, the contacts at the park were self-initiated by the officers rather than being called in by
Fair
somebody.
enough. I'm just
So
saying,
the
it's
officers-
back 25 years ago, that there used to not be.
Yeah, I
And
got-
that was-
I got no idea about
the whole
25 years
purpose
ago.
was to give
Right.
more power to the police
But to the
in
mayor,
case something was going.
right, to the mayor's point, if the park is closed and you find someone back there, you can issue them a criminal trespass warning, right? And then if you see them again, you can arrest them.
Right.
Right.
And the
So that's the
officers-
beauty
right.
of the closure hours, because
Correct.
you can give them the warning and
Well,
then you
even-
can
even-
actually have
even-
some teeth.
Even prior to the gate being installed, because it's
Because it's-
there on the signage coming in at the park closes at 11, hours are 11 or
Even
close
with
to-
the hours posted, you were fine to do
Yeah,
that.
we were, yeah. The officers can issue a criminal trespass warning if they see fit.
I mean, I would even like to see, and again, I would suggest we investigate this. I'm not saying we take action on this now, but whether it's cameras or even motion detectors that actually send a signal to somebody that if there's motion of a certain size individual or something down there.
That's going to be tough with those ducks.
Listen,
No,
the geese are going to
act-
set it off all
I
night.
hate to say it, but technology's much better than that.
See,
non-feathered people.
You can exclude ducks. So, I mean, I'm just saying is, it would take, I'm worried more about a deer than that.
Yeah.
But just if there's some.
Yeah, I would-
And again,
I would-
I'm just looking at tools so that we don't have to have a permanent
Yeah.
schedule
And-
between 1 and 5 for the
I'm not sure
parks.
it's something that we need, but I would lean more towards the cameras being more advantageous to us than a motion detector. Because if the officers are in Bal Harbor.
I just don't want to be prescriptive.
Yeah, if the officers are in Bal Harbor or 1100, 1110 buildings, parking lot, and they motion, how much time before they get over there,
I
and
think-
they can't find anything.
If you were, I mean, well, maybe we'll just say this, Chief, and I don't know if you guys want to make a motion on this, but I would certainly appreciate if the police department would come back with some sort of view of saying, what are some of the key areas? I mean, our space history, I think, is one of them. Looking at some of the areas where children could be would be another. But I'd appreciate at least some guidance from the police department
we
as
can-
to what would be reasonable.
Sure.
And I use that term, broadly.
And-
But
and
I
we- another-
just don't, I'm tired of doing nothing.
No, I get it. And I think another problem, Troy would certainly appreciate, I think a lot of people abandon dogs in the dog park, and I
Yeah,
think
fair-
that's an
even-
issue for
even
him too.
more.
So, it'd probably be good to have several cameras over there, just pointing in all directions. I know we have a camera at the wastewater treatment, is it the wastewater, or the water treatment plant? But it does not extend far, right?
It doesn't.
So,
Yeah.
a few would probably be good.
Anyways, maybe that's it. And then the other is, and I do think it may take a motion, is I do believe we should put at least a $5,000 reward for any information leading to the identification, arrest, and conviction of anybody, for somebody who harmed the moon trees.
I would like to just see, not even just specific to the moon trees, anybody that does damage to anything in our parks. I think there's.
Better be specific,
Right,
because
yes.
I mean, what constitutes like
Well, certainly the tree was extensive.
It was.
And in my mind, I want to say, who would do that? And if they're in our area, it's really kind of scary. And if it's just young kids being malicious, other kids will tell. And you can stop that behavior before it
gets worse.
And you send a message to this community, to the community and the surrounding communities, we're just not going to tolerate it. I don't think anybody else tolerates vandalism. And if we don't get any good leads, then the,
Raise the price.
right, yeah, or even worse. But nothing is lost if it doesn't.
Don't pocket that in like vandalism of a tree. We're talking about crime, we're talking about vandalism,
No,
we're talking about all
I'm
the
just saying,
things.
we've had 5 events in the park, and the moon tree, just because of the sensitivity around our heritage, and, you know, it just, I've had enough, right? So,
I'd be specific, though. I would
let's
make it.
start with just the moon tree, and then if you can come up with other language, we can broaden it, but I specifically would like to have it, you know, on the moon tree, you know, at least this go around.
Why don't you start with that?
Well, then I would move to approve a $5,000 reward for information leading to the identification and arrest of the individual or individuals that vandalized the moon trees recently as discussed this evening.
Arrest and conviction, right?
Arrest and conviction, yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Paula, or, yep.
Whichever.
Then, any further comment?
Can I ask what the value of the moon tree? I mean, I know it's
I believe it's
invaluable.
close to
but-
$5,000.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay, because I was
Yeah.
curious, because in a criminal mischief case, there's obviously certain levels of what the offense is, and it's based on dollar value of the item.
It may be 3,000, but I think it was 5,000. It's
I think it was-
multi-thousand
I
dollars.
remember being
Oh,
5.
Jaime knows.
Yep.
Yeah,
5.
5.
Finance guy.
Right.
He knows the numbers.
Yeah.
He's like, that's
I remember it being 5.
Yeah, I think it is.
Stella,
Yep.
do you want to say something?
Quick one. That's Reflection Garden. I don't know about the cages for the kids? Did I hear you correctly, Jim? Cages for the kids? Yep. Well, can I ask you a favor? Can you present that at the Parks and Recreation Committee that I think's in there? And so we can move on, because I got these gentlemen over here, I see they've been waiting very patiently. I'll introduce them in a little bit. Yep. So I have a motion and a second. Any further questions? And I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Is that 7-0?
Wait, is it ID, arrest, and conviction?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lot. That's a big hill to climb for $5,000.
Well, passes
Better be
7-0.
some good information. Yeah.
The next is, hopefully these go faster, discussion and possible action, request to reschedule the March 10th City Council regular meeting to either March 17th. From what I've heard, most people, if we do it, would be March 24th.
Agree.
Yeah, I don't even know.
And I want to say this, and I mean this sincerely. Our city secretary has been burning the candle double time. She has a cruise that comes back on the 9th, and to have her have everything set up for this, I'd rather her go away, enjoy her vacation, then come back and then give her 2 weeks to be able to put the council.
For Maria, I'll do it.
All right?
Well deserved.
Okay.
I move to reschedule the March 10th City Council regular meeting to March 24th, 2025 at 7 p.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Haley. All those in favor? Passes 7-0. And then the consideration and possible action, resolution number 2025-02-10-3, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, authorizing submission of application to the Public Safety Office, the PSO, for the body-worn camera grant program fiscal year 2026.
Jaime's going to defer to me. So right now we are in, it's a little confusing because right now we are in the fourth year of a 5-year contract with Axon. When we were working with M6 Global on the security audit, they referred us to EMD out of New York as a grant writing partner or grant search partner. They are still searching for any grants that may assist us with the security issues. While we were talking to them, there came up a conversation about possibility of donations in our grants for radios. In the meantime, they found this grant for body-worn cameras. Right now, we're not sure if we're eligible for this grant because we do have a existing.
But there's a time sensitivity.
There's a time sensitivity. The grant has to be submitted by Thursday, the 13th, this week. February 13th. We've been working with them. We just, they informed us as of Friday, that's the deadline, and it needs a resolution. Part of the submission, one of the requirements is a resolution from City Council as to this. So this may be, as I think earlier there was a resolution that may or may not be needed. This is kind of a catch-all. If we need the resolution,
You got it.
yeah, we're still working with EMD to determine the amount of money that we may be eligible for, if we're eligible for it, and
But you can't get it unless we.
yes, sir,
we do
correct. So, yes, so, and that's all we're asking for.
Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve resolution number 2025-02-10-3, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nassau Bay, Texas, authorizes submission of application to the Public Safety Office, PSO, for the body-worn camera grant program fiscal year 2026.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Haley. Any further comment? I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? 7-0. And before I go into executive session, I want the citizens here to know, these are some very important gentlemen here. These are an amalgam of people from, local citizens to people who are contract managers to actual, what I'd call similar to an investment banker and actually and developers. These are the gentlemen who are working to secure Margaritaville in Nassau Bay. And I don't know if you each would like to at least stand up and just say your name and introduce yourselves, if you don't mind. Yep.
Mayor.
It's just so many. Is that a live mic right there? Is that a live mic to take to him?
Redevelopment of this area, and we've assembled a group that we think are looking for partners, just like you all, because we all grow together. And as my father said, we want a good deal, and if it's got to be a good deal for both sides, or it's not a good deal at all.
Please give your name, if you would.
Billy Burge. Okay.
Yes.
And so, I'm sorry.
Anybody who knows any developer in this area knows Billy, and he and his family have been involved for decades. So we appreciate your help.
Okay. John, you don't say a few words? John's father and I started this together.
Yeah, you guys did the West Houston Association back in the day.
So I've known Billy, my whole life, and he and my dad taught me everything I know about the business. I've kind of been boots on the ground putting this project together for the last couple of years. So we're just happy we finally have it to a point we can bring it to all of you. I think I got to meet most of you a few weeks ago when we came in to talk about it in closed
And
session.
you hold the exclusive right to the franchise called
Yep,
Margaritaville.
and we just updated it for Nassau Bay this morning, so
Yep.
fully executed.
Okay.
So, and Mr. Scott.
Hello, I'm Scott Covington. I'm a resident down here across on the south side of the lake in Waterford Harbor. I have a commercial real estate firm. We just finished our 40th year, October of last year, and I am honored to be part of this group and honored to be here speaking to you tonight.
Thank you, Scott. Francisco.
Good evening. My name is Francisco Gonzalez. I've worked for Mr. Billy for the past 5 years, and I keep the wheels greased in this machine. So,
You keep the trains going
Yes, sir.
right
It's
on
a
time, right?
great job, but somebody's got to do it.
I'm Gary Garnett. I've known most of you on the board of directors of Keels and Wheels and also the board of Lakewood. And I've been working with John to bring a project to this area that I think is going to reestablish the entire area. Thank you.
All right. These gentlemen are the ones who are working this and working it hard, and the city's looking at being in a partnership with them for the purpose of acquiring the Hiltons. So there it is. I said it on on the public record. So with that, we do need to go into executive session with these gentlemen. I'm going to go and move that the city council now hold a closed executive meeting pursuant to the provision of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551.087 of Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding economic development negotiations, and 2, Section 551.072 Texas Government Code to deliberate regarding matters revolving real property negotiations. It is 8:50. Again, if it's on there. I've
Okay,
got,
yeah,
I'm gonna,
we'll start over.
tell me when you're recording. Okay, we're coming out of executive session. It is 9:38 or 5 o'clock somewhere. Do I hear a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion. I move that we authorize $2.2 million of our hotel occupancy tax fund to be utilized in partnership with Ayrshire with the purpose of the acquisition and ownership of the property currently at the Hilton location.
Second it.
Second by Chase. Is that sufficient, Counselor? Yep. Then any other comments, any other questions? Then I call for the vote. All those in favor? 7-0. Do I hear another motion?
Yes. I would like to make a motion to authorize the finance director to search all avenues to legally provide hotel occupancy tax fund bonds to provide an additional $2.8 million for investment in the same purposes.
Do I hear a second by Chase? Any further questions or comments?
These are all subject to acceptable agreement to be negotiated.
Yeah, they will be. Yep.
Correct.
You're not spending the money tonight, you're agreeing.
Authorizing,
Subject to
yes.
To an agreement. Yep.
Do I need to state that?
I would.
Do I need to start over? We already voted, okay. Let me just restate that. I'd like to authorize the finance director to search all avenues to legally provide hotel occupancy tax fund bonds to add an additional $2.8 million for the investment in the same purpose at the Hilton property, subject to agreement.
Yep. Seconded by Chase. Any further questions or comments? Then I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Passes 7-0.
Move to adjourn.
Moved.
Second.
Second by Haley. All those in favor? Passes 7-0.
We're done.